So from open E tuning, you are now
Well,
journeying towards another tuning, correct?
yeah. Eventually, in my journey, I realized nobody ever remembered the second guy that flew across the Atlantic. So, you know, I had gotten Dwayne's stuff down well enough that it had given me a door to step through, and then I started looking elsewhere. And I had to sort of, I literally did this. I took all my Allman Brother records and all my Dwayne records with Pickett and Aretha and King Curtis and all that stuff, and I put them all in a box and I put them under my bed. And I started venturing out, and I bought Ry Cooder's record. Yeah, I believe it was, well, I bought them all, but I don't remember which was the first one that I did buy, but I realized, okay, there's more information here. And Ry, he played in E, he played in D, he played in G, he played in A.
Right.
And I realized most of the West Coast players were playing in A or G,
Right.
which is basically the same tuning, but on stage I use two different guitars for A and G. And the A guitar, if I ever go to play an open E, which I rarely do, or then I'll use the A guitar because the string tension's about the same.
Similar, yeah.
And then the open G, because there's less tension, because it's a lower note, you use a bigger string. I believe this is 13. On the open G tuning, we use a 14.
Okay.
If you can find it. If not, 11, whatever.
Right.
So I moved down into a little different country. This is an open A tuning, and our string tunings are open E. Your big string stays in E, and your A string stays in A, and your D string is moved up to an E, and your G string is moved up to an A.
Right.
B string is moved up to a C sharp,
C sharp.
And then an E again on the bottom.
Great.
And so for you at home who don't maybe have a tuner handy, it's just like you were making the old Mel Bay A chord right there. Just raise those strings up to match that tension right there. And this is where I started writing more, and as my career as a recording artist got going, I wanted to incorporate slide guitar, and for whatever reason they put me into country music. Now, I never felt like I should be in country music, although I don't have anything against country music. One of my greatest heroes in the world is Merle Haggard, and I think he's probably the greatest voice I've heard in my lifetime, and probably one, if not the greatest songwriter in American history, in the Great American Songbook, possibly ever. And a great band leader, and he's been a great friend to me. But so I don't want to diss country music, but I just don't think, I think it was offered up to me, and it was a way to make records, and it let me work with the producer, Barry Beckett, who was with the Muscle Shoals rhythm section, and had moved to Nashville and become a record producer. And Beckett, I could understand. He understood groove better than anybody I knew, and I knew that together he and I could make great records. So we began, and the first album was Roy Parnell. It was self-entitled. And the cover has that old 56
great record.
Goldtop on it, and it's got horns all over the record.
Right.
I didn't really change much of anything. I think there was one song or two songs on there that they thought they might be able to get on country radio. Nah. But it was a great thrill for me, because I got to work with my band in the studio which didn't happen in Nashville that often back then, if at all.
Right.
It was very, and I got a lot of flack for that for a while, but then the guys, I wanted an identifiable sound.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I loved about Haggard and that I loved about Muddy Waters and about so many others is that you knew who the singer was before the singer ever began to sing, because the band had a sound.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the Allman Brothers,
Right.
for instance, you know, when you heard the intro to Midnight Rider, you knew
Right.
Greg Allman was going to start singing here in a minute. And that's what I wanted. I wanted something that was identifiable and that was uniquely mine. So there, again, that was a whole nother journey, and one of self-examination and also trying to convince the outside world, mainly record companies and the like,
Right.
that this music should be heard, should be made and should be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really leaning on something other than the E tuning. That's why I went to the A tuning. Okay. And even the dobro players that you would hear in country music at one time would usually be in a G tuning. Right. or an A tuning. Mm-hmm. Usually Josh Graves and right. those guys. Yep. And it was a way for me to find my own voice. So as the songs, I began to write more in open tunings, and so by this time the second record came along, and I believe that was Love Without Mercy, we had put the horns away, we kept the slide. Mm-hmm. It was either that or not make a record for Arista. Right. I said either put the horns up and stay, or keep the horns. And the horns were just an afterthought. I just thought, well, making a record. Right. I got Jim Horn. Yeah. I got this great horn section. Right. Why not use them? And but Love Without Mercy was a completely different record, and we just brought the guitar out more, and I think the songwriting became a little more commercial. Mm-hmm. And as the records subsequently came after that, On the Road, Every Night's a Saturday Night, I can't remember all of them. I can't even remember. I don't even have them all. I honestly don't. Wow. And they're not in print anymore. Yeah. So if you want them, you have to go online to find them, used or whatever. I did. I mean, I thought, well, I should at least have my own, one copy of mine for my kids, So I ought to have 3 of them now. The slide became a part of my voice, just like my own, my singing voice.
Can you show us some of what you do in Open A that kind of defines that tuning for you, or where you found your voice within that tuning?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, like On the Road, for instance, which is
one of my favorites.
Intro. So there's your intro, That's the intro and the outro on the road.
Yeah, beautiful.
Or something like that.
Yep.
Near
and that's
that.
the signature to the song from out of the gate?
And it does come around, and that we begin to realize that the slide was that thing that happened before I sang, that people go, well, this is Leroy record.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So I needed that, and luckily I had it in my arsenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing with, you know, like holding my own.
Right.
It's a little easier when you got an accompaniment. The only thing harder than saying goodbye was saying hello after all this time. When I ran into you, you knew love and told. You say you worry about me, you wanna know how am I getting by? Thank you, I'm holding my own. Don't you worry about me no more. Hurt me when you left me alone. There's two sides to every door. And the life you left behind is led two lives I never know. Thank you, I'm on my own. So on and so forth. So it sort of helped define
Beautiful.
those years and the work that I did with Arista, and with Arista, with Clive leaving. Clive Davis was the reason we had Arista Records. Tim DuBois was the reason we had Arista Nashville, and Tim was the reason, and Tim and Clive were the reasons that I had a record deal at all. And when the house came tumbling down, you know what happens to the soldiers, and that was the end of that chapter.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
And you know, Bob told me that too.
Yeah.
Bob told me that real early on. He said, because Dad wanted me to play Western swing, you know.
Yeah.
And I loved Western swing, but Bob said, no. He said that music happened when I was a kid, and he said, besides that, I've already done that, Leroy. There is something unique inside of you that you need to go find. And you need to bring that forth and bring that. That's your gift. That's what God stamped in you. And that's what I would tell any of my followers that or people out there that have been fans of mine. Don't do what I do.
Yeah.
I've already done it. Take what I did, learn from that, and then take it, make it your own.
Yeah.
You've got your own unique soul and your own sound, and it's up to you to mine it and find it.
Yeah. It could be a lonely journey, you know, and a difficult one because, you know, for most students, it's very easy to imitate and feel some sense of accomplishment and, yeah, I'm really learning this instrument. But I mean, how few people go out and find truly their own voice on the instrument? I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but there are a fairly considerable number of guitar players on this planet. You know, but how many have their own voice? And it's very difficult to find.
Yes, it is.
How many guitar players can you hear and know within 5 or 10 notes or you know, an intro or a verse who it is?
You know, you wonder how some of those guys who were so young when they actually found their sound, like Carlos Santana, for instance, you know. I know who that is.
Yeah.
And he was, what, 23 when that happened?
Yeah. And it wasn't the guitar he played, or the amplifier, or the strings.
No.
You know, it was something here and
Something here.
Yeah.
He's an amazing player, but he will also be the first to tell you that, you know, he's just channeling. I love Carlos. I really, as a person, and I don't know him that well, but what time I've spent around him, we seem to be on the same, kind of on the same wavelength, you know, to talk about the same kind of things. And kind of be, everybody else said, what are these guys talking about? And we know what we're talking about. But that is true, and I believe God bless them. Guitar Institute is a fantastic. I mean, I never will know that much information on the guitar, but I got to tell you, a lot of those guys that come out of there, I can't tell one from the other. Now, I don't mean that I'm not dissing anybody. I was just broke and poor and didn't have. They didn't have Guitar Institute. If I'd had it, I might have gone to it for a week or two at least.
Till they asked you to leave?
Till they told me.
No.
Get out of here.
Well, I mean, they're all learning very similar information, but then at some point, everybody, and very few people do it. They have to go, okay, so what do I do with all this information? What do I create that sets me apart and defines me musically? And that's what I love about who you are and what you do.
Well,
and you speak beautifully and eloquently and inspirationally about it. And hopefully some others will get that out of it.
I hope so. I hope so. It's because if you don't, here's the real trick, and what the secret is that nobody ever talks about. It's such a joy. To make that journey, and I would hope that every artist and player out there. I mean, we have these beautiful guitars that are. I mean, they're saying today. They talk about the 50s and the 60s and 40s and the pre-war, this and that. Yes. We had great guitars being made back then. We also had some kind of crappy ones.
Absolutely,
too.
yeah.
But I think today is the golden era for guitars, because take for instance this Les Paul right here. It's a Tom Murphy, aged right.
Yep.
Guitar. It looks like it's been in somebody's closet for 50 years. And was played by somebody's uncle, maybe 2 or 3 dances, and his wife told him he couldn't go honky tonk anymore.
Fired him, yeah.
And and then he went home and put it away, and just that was it. But I mean, these guitars are every bit as good as those guitars, as long as we get the wood.
Yeah.
If we can get the wood, then which is a little bit of a problem right now.
Yeah, for everybody. Yeah. So what are you doing nowadays? Where can we find Leroy Parnell? I mean, we're finding you here today, and thanks again. But I mean, what's motivating you, inspiring you? What are you doing as a writer, singer, performer? How can we all find you and continue to follow your illustrious career?
Well, it's funny. I took some time off to. I've been on the road for most of my life, and one day I looked up and my life was just halfway over with, and I wanted to spend some time with my kids, and I wanted a little more concentrated time on writing, and so I took that time, and it kind of snowballed on me, and time kind of gets away from you if you're not careful, and I realized, man, I need to make more records. It's time for me to make more records again. So we're sitting in September of 2011 today. I think if all goes well, we will have the Leroy Les Paul maybe by January, hopefully by then.
We're greatly looking forward to that.
Hopefully. And I have written about, since I've been off the road, I've written about 160 songs for this next record. And I've recorded about probably 50, 60 of them already.
Wow.
And I'm not interested in making perfect records anymore. I am interested in making perfectly great records, but not in the old style of the records I used to have to make for Arista. Not taking anything away from that. It's just that I really, they work to get every little hair in place, and you know what it's like to see somebody's hair that's like on TV or something, and you just want to just go over and just
Muss it up. Yeah.
The news guy or something, you know,
Yeah.
you just, you know, that looks weird, you know, Billy Graham hair or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
you know. And music's kind of like that. You kind of need to screw it up a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, and take chances, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to fall. Do not be afraid to fall, because it's like my friend Stephen Bruton and Gary said, Gary Nicholson, my co-writer and dear friend, funny how falling feels like flying for a little while.
Beautiful. Yeah, yeah. So 160 songs.
There, give or take.
Could you pick it up a little bit? I mean, what's the writer's block? That's no, I think that's amazing. Do you typically write that much music to get one album?
No,
or is this many
no.
future albums to come?
See, well, I think I had this idea that, you know, maybe that was my grown-up job. That is if I wasn't going to be on the road, then I needed to be busy, and in my studio, and I have a little place that I go to write. It's away from phones and things like that. And typically I write with a co-writer, just because it's sort of a lonely business, and it's a lot more fun to do it with a buddy. So we'll get together usually 4 or 5 days a week if I'm not touring.
Right.
And we'll meet about 10 in the morning, leisurely, you know, make a pot of coffee. And usually I will have already read the paper and made some notes of what's going on, and if something's happened in my life. And 90% of the things that I write about come from real life experiences, either myself, or I'll see something happen in your life, and that I will think, boy, that it took a lot of faith to pull off what he did with your store, for instance. You know, I was thinking about that earlier. If it wasn't for faith, that store wouldn't be there. So I started thinking about that title. If it wasn't for faith, you know, that's the way it happens. It starts, and then I don't try to remember everything anymore. Luckily, with the new iPhones and things that we have, we can jot them down.
Right.
And hopefully they'll finally get that cloud thing worked out, so we can. What's going on with that? But I'll just jot it down, and that way when I get together with my co-writers, I can go, well, what do you have? Or maybe it's on a napkin, or maybe it's, and I think it's always been that way. I remember I wrote a #1 song on the back of a barf bag on a plane, you know. That's romantic, isn't it?
I was just how inspiring.
Yeah.
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 That's incredible. Yeah.
It was there, and it was there, and that was all that was there. And
so, are you writing solely for yourself now?
No, I have other artists that come and want songs. We've had some luck. Aaron Neville has cut my songs, and as of late, Kenny Chesney and Willie did a duets record, and they cut the song that Guy Clark and Gary and I wrote, which was just a fun day. I mean, imagine what that day was like. Guy and Gary and me, and we've had some success. Patty Loveless took Old Soul and did a completely different version of that, and that was great. And Colin Ray had a big record when That's My Story, and I'm sticking to it. So yeah, they come, and that happens less and less these days, unfortunately. There was a time in Los Angeles and in Nashville and New York that writers were considered to be writers, and artists were considered to be artists, and really the two were pretty separate from one another. And I'm not so sure that was a good thing in some ways, because if you weren't consumed with ego about, I want to write everything that I record, then you're liable to miss some of the best songs for you as an artist. So it's not smart, I don't think. What I typically would do in the past is I would write like a banshee. And when I was on the road all those years, I would usually take 2 months off before a record and just write, and I mean every day, just cram write. Because when you're an artist, it's difficult to write on the bus. There's so much to do. Meet and greets, there's radio station visits. There used to be in stores when we had record stores. Don't get me started. And your days are very, very busy, and even with the best of intentions, it was very difficult to write on the road. So I would write like crazy for a couple of months, and then right before we go into the studio, I would go and I would take that writer hat off and just put it up. And I mean put it up, buddy. I'm here I'm co-producing this record, which means I've got to mine the best songs I can for myself as an artist. So I would go out and there were 4 or 5 people that I would always go to, publishers and writers alike, that I knew I might not take the song, but I knew they would never shoot me a bad song. So it wouldn't waste my time. Yeah. Because time is so precious for us all, and so I would go out and I try to beat my songs. Okay. And I did many times. Love Without Mercy, had it not been for Mike Reed and Don Frummer writing Love Without Mercy, I had another song that was sort of like that was in place, but Love Without Mercy was a much better song. And there's no way, and I'm so glad I did, because that has become a signature song for me. Sold, actually, it only made it to number 6 on the charts, but it sold more records than any number 1 song I ever had. You never know where those spikes are going to come from and what's going to touch people, but you start learning. Which kind of leads me into answering your question about what am I going to do. And now, at 54 years old, and I'm in good health, thank God for that. It could have gone either way. But thank the Lord, I'm okay. I'm doing fine, and I'm ready to make another record. Excellent. And I'm ready to get out and tour again. So I suspect with the release of the Leroy signature Les Paul, that Gibson has been so kind to me to allow me to have this opportunity, that record will drop sometime around the same time. Oh, excellent. And a subsequent tour to follow. And I would imagine we will be doing some clinics along the way. I think that's because, what we're doing right now is essentially a clinic that folks can tune in to your show and see, get a glimpse of what's going on in your world. Well, our world revolves around you guys. Without you guys doing it, I mean, that's what music is inspiring, inspirational lessons, whatever it is, and really you have shared so much with us today. This has been a really profound experience. It's been a pleasure. And we'll hope you come back and see us again here many times with the band after the new record, and with the new guitar. I would love to do that. And I'd love to play the park. We have an event in Louisville. We don't want to brag, but Louisville was voted the #1 city in the country for the 2nd time recently. Was it really? Really, yeah. We're very humble about it. I can vouch for them. I can vouch for them right now. I can tell you, they got it all. It's a lovely place. It's a beautiful place. We have a summer concert series every year that's open to the public, and we'd love to have you join us. Buddy, hopefully our paths will continue to cross it. I'll come see you in Nashville. Absolutely. Visit you at Gibson. If I'm not in Nashville, come visit me anyway.
Okay, and check them out at where online?
LeroyParnell.com.
There it is.
Yeah.
Great place. Thanks again, Leroy.
Thanks.